Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Hypatia Olushi Otushiku, and on this channel I talk about faith, lifestyle and gospel movie review. In this video, I'll be reviewing the movie titled Kola. It was produced by Royal Ambassadors Drama Unit in conjunction with Victory Drama Group. It is the biopic of Bishop Kola, the founder of Abundant Life Gospel Church. So the movie Kola tells the story of how Kola was a student in the university, and while he was a student, he used to go for outreaches and evangelism in villages, preaching the word, and we saw different things where he was preaching the word to young men, old women, young women. He was just preaching the word, telling people about Christ while he was still in school. And we also saw a scene where his roommates were talking about him and were concerned, and one made a statement that I really liked, that despite the fact that he was into evangelism while he was in school, he also gave attention to his studies. So despite going out for outreaches, despite going to villages to preach, he still gave time to his academic, and he was doing well academically too. So along the line, we saw how Kola was called by God to start a ministry. We saw how he got the vision, and then he had finished school and it was time for him to start his ministry. So Kola came out with a good grade from the university and he had a job waiting for him already. But Kola declined taking that job, and it was a big blow for his relatives. And so they spoke to him, tried to talk him against starting a ministry or going into ministry full time, and it wasn't an easy time for him, but he was convinced, and he told them that, oh, God had called me. And there was doing a scene where his uncle was making fun of him that he didn't hear God and all of that, and they told him that he had wasted his time in the university, that if he knew he was going to go into ministry, why didn't he just go into a theological school from the beginning? He didn't know he was going to go into ministry. There are a lot of funny scenes in the movie, there are a lot of interesting scenes, there are a lot of lessons to pick from the movie. One of the funny scenes was the scene where Kola was trying to woo a lady and he would write love letter to the lady, and the lady was not responding positively. So he wrote a long letter to the lady and she replied like with a sentence, and he read the letter and wrote back to her that those 6 words were like the sweetest words he has ever read, and he was just like talking and talking. Another funny scene was the scene where Janet was discussing with her father about the man she wanted to get married to, but the father was not willing to let her get married to the man. But when she showed her father that her leg was healed completely, because she had like some injuries on her legs, I don't know what it was called, an infection or something, but her leg was not okay. But when she showed her father that her leg was clear, the father was surprised because they had tried several medications, tried several things to get that thing out of her leg, but it was just there. So when the father asked that, what happened to your leg? How come it's clear? And she told him that, oh, this person that I want to get married to was the one who prayed for me. So he prayed for me, and a few days later I was healed completely. At that point, she didn't even need to convince the father any longer. The father told her that you must marry this person.
Tai, this young man, what did you say his name is?
Kola.
Kola. You marry him. In fact, you must marry him.
Daddy, ṣé lóòótọ́?
All my legs and everything about me. You will marry Kola.
One of the major lessons for me in the movie is the importance of having a personal relationship with God. Not just knowing God as someone that we go to church every Sunday to worship, but knowing God as someone that you can call a father, someone you can talk with, commune with daily, someone you can go to for direction, someone you can listen to and obey his commandments, someone that you have a relationship with. We saw that playing out several times in the movie, especially on the side of Janet. So she got called by one of the elders in her church because she was a grown-up and, as people would say, of age to get married. And so this particular person was concerned about her and the fact that she wasn't married yet. And so he called her aside and started giving her advice and told her some things to do so that she would be able to get a husband. And she was concerned because it was troubling the way the man called her and the things the man said to her. So she went back to God and told God that, oh God, this is the suggestion that this person had given me on ways to find a life partner. What should I do? And in that process of seeking God's face on that matter, instead of just taking that advice and running with it, she had to wait on God. And God gave her His word, God gave her direction. So sometimes when people come to us and give us suggestions, give us ideas, we don't just say, okay, because this person is this. You just go ahead and run with it, regardless of whether that is in line with God's will for your life or not. You just go ahead and run with it. The scripture says, in all your ways, acknowledge God, and He'll make straight your path. So when people give you advice, people give you suggestions on how they think your life should be run, you don't just take it and run with it. You should learn to acknowledge God in all your ways. Tell Him, commit your plans into God's hand. Another thing that stood out for me in the movie was how Janet had heard God speak clearly to her. This is your husband. And in the movie, we saw that the way God spoke to Janet was by an audible voice, or sometimes laying things in her heart. And while watching the movie, I was like, I wish God really spoke like this to everybody. But the truth is, God doesn't speak that way to everybody. There are several ways God speaks to people. God could speak to you through His word. The major way God speaks to every child of His is through His word. So God speaks to us through His word. He speaks to us through the inner witness. He speaks to us sometimes through circumstances. Sometimes He just puts promptings in our heart. Sometimes He just leads us. And sometimes we hear His voice. So Janet had heard God's voice, but she wasn't willing to obey because she had an idea of what she wanted for herself, and what God had told her wasn't in line with what she wanted for herself. And so she struggled to submit to the will of God. And we saw that she was still asking God for the same thing that God had already answered her for. And it occurred to me that many times as Christians, when we go to God in prayer, requesting for things, we already have an idea of the things that we don't want. And so when we are telling God that, oh God, I want this, God, I want this, we have a picture of how that thing should come to us. And so when it doesn't come that way, when God tells you that, oh, it's not this way I want it to be, it's this other way I want it to be, sometimes we find it difficult to submit to God's will. It's true that we have the power to make choices, but then even when God places before us His will, we still have to choose to obey it or not. One of the things that helps me obey God is knowing that God can be trusted. I remind myself constantly that God knows all, God sees all. So He's in control. He sees the things I don't see, He knows the things I don't know. Even the secret thoughts of men that I think I know these men, but God sees them and knows them better than I do. So God can be trusted, and because God can be trusted, I choose to trust Him. I admit that there are times when I struggle to obey God's will, but in the end, we realize that God's will and following God's way is the best.
To understand what is going on, look at the person that wants to get married. Look at the kind of car he brought to visit me. Can't he borrow his friend's car to come visit? Why? What is this, for God's sake?
Ọmọ dúpẹ́ tiẹ̀. Èèyàn kankan ló lọ gbé ìyàwó àfẹ́sọ́nà rẹ̀ ń jò ní pẹ̀lú mọ́ṣíìnì, ó là mọ́lẹ̀ lójú títì ni. Ṣé òun kọ́ ló gbàdúrà fún ọ láìpẹ́? So n tó ń fẹ́ ni tí ó wà tán à, tí ó wà gbéraga báyìí kó mọ sọ ohun tí òun ò jẹ́. Do you prefer someone that will live a fake life? Wo gentle, dákun fún mi lómi. I'm tired.
Another thing that caught my interest in the movie was how towards the end of the movie, Kola got married, and after the wedding, everyone had left, and his wife, his newly wedded wife, wanted to follow and go. So she was to go to her house. And Kola was surprised. The man had just gotten married and he needed to spend some time with his new bride. And the bride was just there and everything, and she had heard like some things about that night and she was scared. And I like the way Kola was patient with her. he was willing to wait for her to get ready, and they ended up spending that night discussing and talking about things that they didn't even realize how far time had gone. And when they checked the time, it was already morning. Okay guys, thanks for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. Like this video and share it. You can also share with me in the comment section if you have watched the movie Kola. Share with me who was your favorite character, what lesson you got. And if you haven't watched the movie Kola, you can find it on Yemi Adepujo's YouTube channel. You can also share with me your lessons from this video. I'll be waiting to read your comments.